I always tell people that when I realized I had it right, when I hit my second stage, like second gear in growth, it was the day I realized I'm not a financial advisory firm. I'm not a wealth management firm that happens to do marketing. I'm a marketing firm that happens to do financial advisory services. That's when things really started to take off.
Welcome to the Advisors Fuel podcast, where high-performing financial planners and wealth advisors discover proven processes and actionable strategies to elevate their client experience, grow their businesses faster, and achieve unprecedented success. Here's your host, Adam Koós, founder at Adrenaline Advisor Consulting at adrenalineadvisor.com.
Welcome into the Advisors Fuel podcast. My name is producer Kyle. Just here to do a quick intro for Adam this week. This week's conversation comes to you from the Purpose-Focused Advisor with Rob Brown. Adam and Rob sat down recently to discuss how over the last 2 years, Adam's been able to double his firm's revenue and some of the thought processes and implementation strategies that he used to make that possible. If you're a fan of the show here, please make sure that you rate and subscribe wherever you're listening, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. All that stuff and engagement helps other listeners find the show. But here is Rob and Adam.
Welcome back. Time once again for the Purpose-Focused Advisor. Rob Brown here, along with my guest, Adam Koós. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it absolutely is. Adam is a nationally recognized financial advisor. He's the founder of Libertas Wealth Management, and he has a consulting firm. He works with advisors, and it's called Adrenaline. And we're going to dig into both of those businesses as we go through the show today. On the wealth management side, Adam specializes in retirement planning, investment strategy, and business exit planning. And if he leans to his right or to his left, you will see that he is in Columbus, Ohio, and is a huge Buckeyes fan. I don't even have to assume. So again, Adam, welcome to the show.
No, thanks again. I've been looking forward to this. This is you've got a great show, and like I said, we're gonna have a little bit of fun today.
Yes, absolutely. So, Adam, one of the things that you mentioned in preparation for the show is that you have had massive growth in your business. And so when I asked, what are your goals? You said to continue that massive growth. Talk about how you've grown. What that massive growth has looked like, and what do you attribute to that?
Well, for the longest time, I'd say pre-COVID, and during COVID, we grew at about 10 to 14% per year, and I was happy with that. I had no problem with it. Things are going well. The only thing I was ever concerned about was the fact that it kind of felt like as soon as the revenue would get to a point where you were feeling really comfortable, and when I say really comfortable, I don't just mean you're comfortable and you're making good money and you can pay the bills, go on vacations. I mean, you're comfortable, you're comfortable, you're making money, you can pay the bills, you can go on vacations, and if the market crashes, you're not concerned, right? But it seemed like every time that would start to happen, there's this huge need to have to hire, right? Expenses go up, overhead goes up, so you kind of have to give away, a bunch of what would have been something you would take home. So contrary to popular belief, people talk about owners, taking all the money and being selfish with it. It's quite the opposite, I think, especially in the small business world. But so I think we were used to, 10 to 14% growth, and then COVID happened. And I think that we all kind of freaked out a little bit. When I say we all, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I know at our office, we're thinking, man, we're used to having 25 appointments per week. And in 8 weeks' time, we saw 3 people. It was insane. And we went from being such a high touch firm where we did so much in-person speaking, in-person meetings, client appreciation events that were in person. We did these things called inner circle club dinners that we would do with clients a couple times a year. And all of that just went away, and everybody who we wanted to meet with, they would all say the same thing. Like we'd say, hey, do you want to get together and set up a Zoom meeting? And they say, well, let's just wait till the dust settles. And of course, the dust never settled, right? Or at least it took a really long time for it to settle. So we found very quickly we needed to come up with some ideas to stay in front of our clients and be top of mind without being in front of them anymore. And so we installed several initiatives. Some of them were more service-based. Some of them were digital, call it virtual. Some of them were marketing based. And I guess the positive side to being in the middle of a 100-year pandemic is that you get a lot of time to think. And the not so good thing is happy hour gets really early. But we did more thinking. We did more thinking than we did happy hour, and I wouldn't be surprised if happy hour maybe contributed a little bit to the creativity, perhaps. Um, but yeah, so I mean, what contributed to the growth was, as I've told multiple advisors who've asked me, I can't tell you one thing that worked. That's what we all do in the business. We call each other up and we say, "Hey, what's working? What's going well?" And we might share an idea. And what I tell advisors is they'll say, "And there is no one idea." And then occasionally somebody will say, "Okay, fine. Like, give me the top 3 ideas then." And I said, "I can't give you the top 3. It's like an orchestra. If you have an entire orchestra of instruments playing and 3 instruments don't play, you're not going to notice. But if you're trying to grow a practice and you want to start with 3 instruments, it's not going to be the best orchestra in the world." So it's a conglomeration of a lot of different things, and it's not a ton of work. It's not like there's all these huge initiatives that take tons of time and tons of employees or anything like that. It's the hardest part is knowing what to do. I always used to say when I started my career 24 years ago that I used to tell my mentors, people that I didn't want to be my mentor, I'm sure, but I would just bother them until they give me their ear and help me. And I'd say to them that, I'm a V12 engine. I'll outwork anybody. The problem is I don't have any gasoline. Like, I don't have the right gasoline in the engine, or at least I've tried to find it and I put the wrong gas in and I stalled out. So give me the right gas. So I think that's what it's about. If you're a hard worker, if you want to if you want to help clients, if you want to save them from bad advice, bad advisors, and really move the needle in your practice, I think that what you have to do is have the right gasoline, and then you have to build and then relentlessly execute. And then from there, it's just all about systematizing things, processes, automations, and making life easy, delegation.
Adam, it sounds to me like you're like keeping a secret that you just don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I'm
I'll
kidding.
No, I'll share it all as much as you want to talk about.
No, no, no. I was just it's I joke like that because I really appreciate what you're saying. COVID gave you an opportunity to be intentional about thinking about all aspects of your business, because no matter how well you're doing in a business or in a part of your business, you can always get better. But if you're constantly looking at what you're doing and saying, how can we improve this? How can we tweak this? We've got a great client experience. How can it be greater? That's going to show up in the results that you get in your business and the number of clients that you attract and the assets that you grow and all of that. So I think, is that the gas that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think the gas is, I've been a part of multiple coaching programs in my career, and I've learned a little bit from each one. And I guess I'm so glad that went through those programs, and I'm so glad I spent a ton of money doing it. But I kind of always felt like, man, if somebody would just tell me tell me what to do, because I guess my fear. I'm gonna turn this into. I've never told the story this way before, but this is something about me personally that will help make this kind of come full circle. I grew up, as we were just talking offline, in northeastern Ohio, west of Cleveland, just like you did. We did not know that before we started this episode, so go figure. And I grew up in a very, very low income area. But my parents, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, teacher, the first couple of years after I was born. Then she stayed at home. Then when I left the house, she went back to teaching. My dad was an optometrist. We were not upper class, but I would say we were definitely middle to middle upper class. So in our town, we grew up what I would believe very well to do compared to my friends and their families. And my biggest fear when I went to college was that I had peaked, that my lifestyle had peaked. Because we'd go on these beautiful vacations, paid for by Bosch and Lomb or Rooney Optical. And, we'd have 2 hotel rooms at the Delta Omni with a living room and a stocked bar, which I wasn't even old enough to drink, but that's not the point. It was just really cool, And And I just worried that I was going to go to college and that I was going to just not have a lifestyle as good as my dad was able to provide me. And so for the same reason, I felt like when I started my career, and it never stopped, honestly. I felt like I was constantly chasing myself in 10 years, and I was so worried about making mistakes, doing the wrong thing, implementing the wrong strategy because, I mean, you know how it is, Rob. It's like you install an idea, a process, a system, a marketing plan. You can't try it for a month or two. You need to try it for a while. You have to give it time. And when you give it time, if it doesn't work, now you're back. I don't want to say to square one because, in my opinion, you've learned something, so you always get something from it, regardless of whether it works or not. But my concern was always that I was wasting time and that I should have done something else when I look back. So that's why I think I just fought so hard for that gasoline, which to me it's what are the systems, what are the processes, what are it's because it's not. I will say it's not being a good financial advisor. It's not delivering good financial plans. That's not the answer. I always tell people that when I realized I had it right, when I hit my second stage, like second gear in growth, it was the day I realized I'm not a financial advisory firm. I'm not a wealth management firm that happens to do marketing. I'm a marketing firm that happens to do financial advisory services. That's when things really started to take off. And that was before I hit the next level, which is scaling. And that's a level I hit actually just, as a result of all these things that we've been installing this past years, which like I said, there's no secrets here. Anything you want to talk about, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, no, I when you said that, when you talk to advisors, say, what's up, what's working for you? It's like you want that one idea that they have because you heard they had a big year or a big month. And very rarely is that one thing copyable. It's more than likely part of an overall system or process that you've got to say, how does this fit into to what I'm doing? And so I feel like you are very intentional about thinking about all of the moving pieces of the business. And one of the things at the forefront is your marketing expertise.
Yeah. I mean, I never had a marketing degree. I was a psych and finance double major. I always joke I use the psychology degree more than I do the finance degree. And I don't know. To me, marketing is just behavioral psychology. It's the psychology of decision making, and I'm fascinated by it. So the only reason I think I'm any good at it at all is because I've read tons of books. I think I latch onto it, kind of like I was mentioning earlier offline that I'm a car guy. It's like if I see a new car, like I could look at the headlights of a car and usually tell you what it is at night. And I don't know why my brain soaks that stuff up, but it does. And I think it's the same way with marketing. I just think that the way human beings react to things, how they make decisions is just really, really interesting to me. And I tend to probably overanalyze it to death. But yeah, I mean, absolutely.
So I have to think, though, that some advisors who may be listening to this podcast heard you say that you are a marketing firm that just happens to sell financial planning and say, well, that seems antithetical. Isn't financial planning the holy grail of the profession of being a wealth manager, and shouldn't that be at the top of the list? How do you square that up? Because I imagine that you and your advisors, your firm, does great work in financial planning for your clients.
I like to think we do. I think that when you're starting in this profession, I think that's probably what you focused most on because you don't know what else to focus on. And I don't think you learn any of the marketing, or at least I shouldn't say any of the marketing. I don't think you learn a lot of the good marketing until later. Through who knows, what methods you learn it, whether that's through mistakes, meeting people, conferences, what have you. But I'm so glad you said that because the marketing side of this, I 100% feel saying it out loud, being that, we're a marketing company that happens to do financial advisory services. Not only do I know that there's people out there going, oh, wow, I'm not listening to this guy. He must suck at financial advisory services. He must be a terrible financial planner. Or, who wants to be considered a good salesperson? I don't. I'm telling you right now, I don't. I'm sales averse. In fact, one of the things I think that makes our marketing so good is that we are so sales averse, and that I'm all about giving everything away for free, and letting people feel empowered to make decisions through us. I would much rather do that, educate people, give them the truth. And if they don't want to work with me, I always say it's like dating. It's like if they love me, but I don't love, or I'm sorry, if I love them, but they don't love me back, it's probably not going to work real well. Uh, but I think that, yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but I mean, if you're great, here's what I say. If you're listening to this or watching this and you think you're a good financial advisor, and I would actually ask yourself, do I think I'm a good financial advisor? You're probably saying, yes, I am. The second question would be, do you think you're above average? And most people would probably say yes, even though statistically only, half or more can be better than average. And the third thing I would ask is, do you think that you do what's right for your client? And do you think that you're passionate about morals, ethics, and authenticity, being a fiduciary? And I think most people would say yes. So if that's the case and you don't do any marketing, then what good are you if you aren't telling anybody? So I don't believe that it's our privilege as financial advisors, wealth managers, financial planners. I don't believe it's our privilege to learn how to do good marketing and grow our businesses. I think it's our responsibility.
Yeah, I love that answer, because the fact is, if what you do as a financial advisor is so important, and it is, I believe that the work of financial advisors is extraordinarily important work, and there aren't enough financial advisors out
Good ones.
there.
Yeah.
I think even you add the bad ones, we probably could use more numbers, but we should get rid of the bad ones first, which just makes the replacement process even harder.
Really
But if
smooth.
that's the case, then what are you doing to make sure that you're getting as many at bats as you possibly can to help people? If that's what it's all about, and that can come through marketing. And obviously, there are some advisors, some firms that are set up where an advisor doesn't have to do their own marketing. The people are put in front of them. But if you're building your own practice, if you're running your own RIA and you're trying to grow that top line, the only way that you're going to do that is by doing some effective marketing that puts you in front of more people, so you can do more financial planning.
Yeah, I think it starts even before that, though. I believe that you can't learn all the juicy goodness of prospecting and marketing until you have a top-notch elite onboarding process. And the reason why is because if you learn the marketing and you learn how to prospect and all the great ways to prospect for new business and get new business coming in the door, but your conversion ratio is only 20% because your onboarding process isn't great, then I don't want to say you're wasting it, but I mean, you're wasting it. So I think first you have to have a great onboarding process. And then before that, I think you need to have your vision and your mission in place. I hate to say mission, your vision, your personal vision. Where do I want to be in 5 years? And I hate time-based goals. I know that that's what we're all supposed to do. But one of the reasons that we grew so much this last few years, we doubled. I'll just tell you, we doubled our AUM and revenue between January of 2023 and December of 2024. And one of the biggest things I did was just get rid of the time goals, like not worry so much about when I'm going to grow at X or when we're going to do this or that. Instead it was more about the activities. Like, well, what are we going to install that's going to help us get there? And then let's just relentlessly execute on those processes and systems and activities. So I think figuring out what your vision is first, where you want to be. I do think you got to have to say, well, in 3 years, I want to be here. In 5 years, I want to be there. In 10 years, I want to be this. And then writing those things out. This is a Ron Carson thing. He taught me this. I keep my goals laminated in my shower. I know it's weird, but I can't avoid them. And then that or I'm not showering, right? So I look at them every day, and the goals include, fitness and personal goals with my wife and my kids. It includes, business goals, of course. But having those goals in front of you, looking at them on a regular basis, because I know that a lot of advisors think that's fluffy and it's just kind of stupid. But I do believe in the power of visualization, and it's like. I used to play competitive tennis back in the day, and it's like, it's amazing. I'm a terrible golfer, but when you visualize hitting that shot well before you hit it, you have a much better chance of hitting the shot well. And it's amazing because your brain is a pretty powerful weapon in that case. But anyway, so vision, goals, making sure you have the right minimum set up. I think that it's a huge mistake that advisors make is not having a minimum or having the wrong minimum. Um, there's this push in the industry that you have to niche. And if you don't niche, then you're doing it wrong. And I disagree. I think you can run your business any way you want to. And you just need to be happy and you need to have fun, because if you're happy and having fun, then the rest is kind of easy. I hate to say it. It's not, well, it's simple. It's not easy. But then, client segmentation, I'm sure, you've done all these advisors listening, watching, have probably done some course kind of, client segmentation, but doing it well, doing it right, having the right fee schedules. I think too many of us in this business don't think we deserve to get paid enough. It's just my opinion. And then having the right environment set up, whether that's doing virtual meetings, in-person meetings. We always talk about at our office, when someone walks in the door, we want to hit all their senses. It's not just what they see, but, what do they smell? What do they feel? What do they hear? So there's all these things you can do in your office, whether it be, music, seeing their name on the wall. We don't have any mahogany desks. Everything's like a birch wood, and it looks like a spa, and there's a waterfall, and there's music. And it's like people make decisions subconsciously. And at the end of the day, next to their health, this is the second most important thing in their lives, perhaps maybe spirituality, but they want to feel comfortable. Our business all comes down to trust. And that's the question we can't answer. When somebody says, well, how do I know I can trust you, Rob? Well, I can't answer you. I mean, that's something that other people should say about me, but I can't tell you, you should trust me. You have to get that gut feeling or not. And honestly, at a certain point, it's a leap of faith, right? So I think that the first part of all this is just all those things I just mentioned, from goal setting to, having the right fee schedule in place, minimums, having the right office environment, virtual meetings. And then the last is delegation. You won't have time to do any of this stuff if you don't learn to delegate to someone or something. And when I say something, I mean that's where you start getting into things like automation, processes and systems, where you don't have to worry about 2 a.m. waking up because you worried something fell through the cracks. That doesn't happen at our office because we've set everything up to basically run like a machine.
One of the things that you were talking about was you're not a big fan of numbers goals, but you are a big fan of activities. And I think, although I like using numbers as a North Star as part of my coaching work, I find that when I can break that back down into activities, and making sure the right people on the team are doing the activities for which they are best, that's what gets everybody, maybe going back to your orchestra analogy, playing from the same sheet of music, and everything comes together. So talk about that. Is that what one of the big points you try to drive home with your team and with the advisors that you give coaching advice to?
I mean, you're completely right. So I apologize if I misspoke earlier. I care very much about numbers goals. I just think that they get in the way. I think if you focus on the results aren't going to come as much as you focus on the activities. So you and I are in alignment. I believe very strongly in saying, here's my goal, whether that be a year from now, 3 years from now. But I like breaking it down into, here's what we're going to do this year, and then breaking those goals down into, here's what we're going to do this quarter, and then breaking that down into 4 years. If you've heard the book, 4-week year, breaking that down into 12 weeks, and then tracking it weekly, and then focusing on the activities. Because I'm sure people listening and watching this have been through this before, where you go a week, you look back and you're like, what in the world did I do this week? I'm sure there's people who, they've gone a month and they go, if I look back at what I did if my spouse asked me what I did this past month, I would struggle to come up with, 5 things to tell them. I'd have to think about it. And then the quarter goes by and you look at it and you're going, man, I'm 1/4 of the way through the year and our goal was X and we're not even close, and it's because I think we lose sight of the things we need to do to get there. In other words, instead of focusing on the horizon, focus on our feet, put one foot in front of the other and focus on that, lose track of the goal so that you can reach the goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, we're totally in sync there. There are a lot of processes, a 12-week year. There's the EOS system traction.
Right.
My process, as I call it, the Truest Fan Blueprint, has that element of taking the big goals and saying, okay, how are we going to transfer that into what we're going to work on now over the next few months, and not try to do everything all at once, but really do well those things that we are committed to doing, because that's going to get us to that goal that we have set for ourselves at the end of the year. Because thinking about adding a new, $50 million in assets is a great thought if that's a big number for you. But just thinking about it isn't going to get you there. Thinking about and doing an action that will lead to the opportunity to get in front of the people that can bring that $50 million into you is so much more important. And I can't tell you how many times that has been the turning point in a relationship that I might have with an advisor, when I get them to think in that action-focused, short-term focused basis. And it's not, well, you're 6 months into the year and say, well, I haven't gotten close to my 12 months goals yet. In fact, I barely started, but at least I have 6 months left. You're just saying, no, I know what I need to do right now. And
Yeah.
and it's I think it's like having a closet full of black suits. You know exactly what to work on when you have that short-term focus, that sprint, or whatever your language is that you use for that period of time.
Yeah. It's like paying for the gym membership and wondering why you're not getting in shape, right? I don't know why. I just like, can't get in shape. I don't, have you been to the gym? No. I mean, I haven't gone to the gym, but I mean, I'm paying for
Yeah.
the membership. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. I've taken a big step. I gave them my credit card. I've lightened my wallet. One of the other things you mentioned in the notes, and this gets maybe a little bit away from the what we've been talking about in terms of how to get that massive growth, is you talk about one of the things that wakes you up in the morning is saving clients from bad advice and bad advisors.
Sure.
Why did you? Obviously, there's something really important about that to you. You would have put that at the top of your list.
Yeah. That goes deep. I mean, when I was growing up, I was that kid that thought life was supposed to be fair. And then my dad would always tell me when I'd come home upset about something from school, and he'd say, Adam, like, life's not fair. You get over it. You got to play the game. And I didn't like playing the game. So to a fault, I have this undying need for things to be right, for right and wrong. And I've gotten myself in trouble before. I mean, I'll tell a Cliff's Notes version of the story here, where that early in my career, this I think 2005 or 2006, one of my first clients, who at the time, I think she's passed away unfortunately since, but at the time she was probably 82, 83 years old. She went to a seminar, and there's nothing wrong with seminars, by the way. I did tons of seminars. I did 150 plus seminars in my career. But she went to a seminar. She was a devout Catholic, never married, never had kids, and had a lot of money, inherited it from her parents. She took care of before they passed. And this guy says, he wants to work with her, and she says, "Oh, I've got an advisor. I'm happy. I came with my friend here, but I'm happy." And then next thing you know, he's in the neighborhood, right? "Hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Wanted to stop by and say hi." And so he stops by her house. She lets him in. She doesn't want to be rude because he's a Catholic too, right? And sits at the kitchen table with her and pitches her 2 annuities, very, to your stereotypical high commission annuities. And she says she's not really interested. And he says, "Well, I can hold this rate for you if you just sign this piece of paper." And he literally pulls out a yellow legal pad, draws an X on the top half, an X on the bottom half with a line, and says, "Sign each of these spots and I'll hold the rate for you." Asks for a drink of water. She goes to the kitchen to get him a water, brings the water back. He says, "Thank you." They shake hands. He leaves. A week later, all her assets are being liquidated and transferred to his annuities. He forged her signatures. She had no idea it was going on. I just happened to catch it by pure luck. I happened to be making an allocation change in her investments, and I got a phone call from the service person saying, "Hey, I got this order to liquidate, but I've also got this order for allocation change. What do you want me to do first, if anything?" I'm like, liquidation? What are you talking about? So I call her up, and she tells me this story about how he stopped by, and I lost it. Not only did I call him in a fury, but once he then accused her of, having dementia and she doesn't remember things, that pissed me off even more. And so the next thing you know, I'll just say it. I mean, this is recorded and it's a long time ago, so I think the statute of limitations is well behind me. I can't get in trouble. But I wrote a letter to FINRA, the State of Ohio Department of Insurance, about what happened and had her sign it, and I sent it. And I don't know if you could believe this, but I got a phone call then saying I had violated a rule that you're not allowed to write letters for clients like this and have them sign it. They have to write the letter. And it was very obvious that I wrote the letter. So at the end of the day, all these charges had to be dropped because she had to drop them against me for writing the letter. This is the world we live in. So that's just one of a few examples of situations that I've had happen in my career where I just don't like that our industry is so complicated and that there's people out here that are really, really charismatic, great salespeople that are extremely good at building trust, but they have no good intentions, or very few anyway. And they can
Right.
sleep. They sleep like a baby. Like it doesn't even bother them. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And as a major cheerleader for advisors in the industry, it just breaks my heart because those, unfortunately, are the stories that get the most attention. When I know that it's the guys out there and the gals out there like you who are doing the right things for their clients because they've been very intentional about building a business that truly serves their clients' best interest, end up getting painted with a bit of that brush, and it's just not a good thing.
I always say that I could have made a whole lot more money a whole lot earlier, but I chose to do the right thing instead, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's the way it should be. Well, Adam, it's about time to land the plane. Any last bit of advice or ideas that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would. The only thing I'll say is that I think the best thing that I ever did in my career, if I were to pick one, it would be that I reached out to people who were smarter than me, and I still do to this day, by the way. And I
They're just fewer and fewer of those people, though, right?
don't know. That's the you don't know what you don't know type thing. But I reach out. I would reach out to people that you think you can learn from and ask for their help. Don't and be shameless about it, because the truth is the most successful people like you, Rob, um, the most successful people love helping other people. And you and I were talking offline about how, don't get me wrong, I love my wealth management firm, and it's been great to me, and I love my clients. I always say I haven't worked in 24 years, but there's something really special about helping other people in our business, which I believe this is the best business in the world. And what business can you do as well as you do while helping people, truly helping people? So I think that the best advice I can give is to do your research, find mentors, reach out to them, ask for help, and just constantly ask questions and just try to find that gasoline. Try to get better at what you're doing, and just know that there's lots of answers out there, and they're not all going to be right for you. Everybody's different. There's different engine sizes, right? There's some take different kinds of fuel, electric, hybrid. So you got to find what makes you the happiest and what kind of practice you want to build. And then from there, start, building a framework around it, being intentional. And then, just again, relentless execution.
Yeah, I think if I took two words away from this podcast, they would be happy. You've got to be happy, and because life is too short not to be happy. And when you're doing good work and working with good people, happiness should be at the top of the list, not something that you look at in the rearview mirror. And then being intentional, intentionality in what you do, how you focus on the different aspects of your business, and don't take them for granted. And I love that advice about, I guess maybe that's part of being a coach is I love giving advice. And I think it's really cool when somebody that I barely know, but saw something that I wrote or listened to a podcast, sends me a note and say, would you mind talking to me more about that? I just think that is so awesome to be able to help people, whether it turns into an opportunity for anything else or not.
Doesn't matter. It's you're planting seeds, and the more you help and the more you give, it's just like, you're spreading that around, and you get to say you touched other people and helped other people in more ways than you probably ever realize, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. So, Adam, if somebody wants to get to know more about you and what you're up to, where's the best place to go?
LinkedIn's probably best. Just go to LinkedIn and type in Adam. The last name is Koos. Doesn't look anything like it's pronounced. that would probably be the best way. And then the other, my wealth management firm is libertaswealth.com if you want to check that out. Otherwise, you can message me on LinkedIn if you want to find a mentor.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being on the show today. To our audience, thanks again for listening in. We will see you next week. And remember, we're rooting for your success. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Advisors Fuel podcast. For more articles, videos, and resources, or to schedule an intro call, visit adrenalineadvisor.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for financial or legal advice. Always talk to your compliance department before implementing any of the ideas shared in this episode.